Okay, so I just finished up designing this case. So at this point, as far as the delegation approach, the first video talks about getting this CT scan in, the STL in, getting it aligned so that someone can come in and plan the case. In the second video, I actually followed my design of the case. Now, that's not necessarily something I recommend delegating. You can have it set up for the most part and then come in and just tweak it if you want. But it's probably not the first thing you start delegating. The first thing is the first video, and then the second or whatever is going to be this video. So the implant is already planned. Here we go. We've locked it in place. Now it can't be moved. And honestly, that should have been in the last video. But so the implant's ready to go, and now we just need to actually do the implant position is done. We just need to design the actual guide. To do that, most of it's going to be done in this 3D view. So I'm going to come over to the panels, guide fabrication, and then we're going to make sure we're on the right model. This one that has the tooth cut out. That is because I duplicated the model in that past video. But anyway, so you can see right here, I've got a couple different videos. Anyway, so guide panel. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Draw Curve. Don't worry about this Create Scan Appliance guide. That's for a whole different type of guide. So all we're going to do here is we're going to draw the border of the guide. And this is how I do it, and this is a good place to start, and you can refine your design from here. I'm going to hold the Shift button. When I hold the Shift button, it turns my arrow into a cursor. Or a crosshair, I mean. And I'm just going to draw, and I like to extend mine around the contralateral canine. Okay? Gives us a nice large guide. Now the line does not have to be continuous. I can pick up all the way over here. It doesn't matter. The software knows the order in which I drew it, and once I click Edit Curve, there's my line. And here's the little dots. Okay? And I can just move these until I have a fairly smooth line. Now, I like to keep them. I used to go at the height of contour. You can still do that, but I kind of aim for right at the gingival margin. I don't want to go any much farther than that, because the farther down you go, the farther you have to flap the tissue out of the way to get the guide to seat. And so I don't want to have to flap a bunch because I made a guide that was too big. Make sure that you cover enough of this tooth behind it so that you're using it for stability. And that should be good. It's really easy to sit here and keep finicking around and being picky, but now we've got a nice line that wraps around, good to go. One thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to right click. I'm going to click Add Window. Now this box that I create here is going to create a hole in the guide so that I can see through it. So all I need to do is I need to position it over top of some incisal edges or whatever, cuss tips, whatever you want. Make it super big. Use these little circles that I'm grabbing onto. It scales it out and forth, back and forth. Make sure there's a good distance. There's plenty of guide space here. You'll see what I mean when it's designed. There's not much here. So to change that, I'm going to grab this red circle here, and I'm going to tip it back. And now I'm going to grab this little blue arrow right here and drag it up a bit. It only needs to lap into the cuss tips, and how you can check that is to look from underneath. Okay? So I'll drag it. I can see this little bit of model right between the incisal and razor here. I don't really like that. I'll show you why in a minute. So there we go. Now it's continuous. Got a nice distance from here to here, about 8 or 9 millimeters. That's what I'd like to have, is maybe 3 or 4. Sorry, that was creating that other video that I just made. My other software. I've got a lot going on my computer right now. Okay, good distance here. Good distance there. Now let's click Create Surgical Guide. This part of the software is going to now generate the guide, and you'll see what I mean. It's going to have a hole here for this guide tube, and it's going to have a hole cut in here. While this is processing, I want to point something out. If your implant is hidden, you can uncheck this box right here, this little implant guide, and it will hide this so you're not seeing it. If you try to create the guide when this tube is not visible, it will not put a hole in the guide. It'll look like a night guard. It'll just have material covering this space. So make sure this gold tube is visible at all times. And there we go. Our guide is made. It has a hole there for our drills in our implant. It's got this little window so that when we seat it, we can see the teeth pop through. We can see that it's fully adapted, and that's it. Last thing we want to do is we want to name this. We want to label it. Come over here. We're still on the guide panel. I'm going to click down here. I'm going to say 4.3 by 8. That is the implant size I am using. Go ahead and hit apply text. Sorry about that. Just ignore that warning. That's if you're adding text. It doesn't matter. And in fact, I'm gonna undo right here, or press Control Z, because I don't want it that way. I am going to engrave it so it doesn't stick out of the model. Instead, it indents into the model, into the guide. You'll see what I mean in just a second. So this is engrave, whereas emboss sticks outward, engrave sticks inward. See how it's sticking into the model? There we go. And then lastly, go ahead and add the patient's name. I'm going to use the same name I've been using for these videos, even though this is an actual patient. Hopefully we will remember. Still being engraved. Apply text. Click OK. Again, don't worry about that warning. So here's the important things about this video. We have drawn our line, we've added a window, and we've labeled it. That's it. That's the only thing you really need to do in the software. I would recommend that you come over to the screenshots button right here, or panels, screenshots, and click on drill report. It's going to create a PDF for us with these images. Well, sorry, that create the screenshot. Now I can click PDF and click OK. Here is the PDF, and I can save this. I'm going to pause for a second so I can save it. Okay, unpaused now. So I saved. I just didn't want to have to blank out that part of my screen. And then last, I'm going to come back to the guide panel. I'm going to click Save Surgical Guide. It's telling me it's going to charge me an export. That's fine. And I'm going to still have to block this out. Dang it. Okay. And example. All right. Do J14 guide. That's the way I label it. Patient's last name, first initial, tooth number, then guide. Hit save. And now we're done. So that's exported. We're at 8 minutes. I've included the actual designing of the guide itself, labeling it, exporting it, and now I'm going to go ahead and open up Rayware, which is Sprint Ray's 3D printing software. I'm going to pause for a second. Okay, here's that folder that has that guide in here. You can see it's saved right here. I'm going to drag and drop this in here. Now, I have other videos on YouTube on how to print guides. There's lots of different ways to do it, but in this video, I'm going to focus on the easiest, most predictable way. And how I do that is I don't look at a specific angle. I look at the anterior. If I was to make a cross section, this is sort of a V. I want to tip this back until the buccal and lingual aspects make a straight V, or a V that would be upright. In fact, I sometimes lean towards getting the palatal side a little more vertical and this sticking out. At that point, I'm done. This is how I print most of our, if we're going to use the supports, this is how we print our night guards and our surgical guides. Don't worry about a specific degrees. I just try to make this a V, maybe slightly more upright on the palatal. Hit supports. Medium, that's typically what I do. Generate supports. 100 micron layer thickness. Surgical guide. And now it's ready to print. An hour and 24 minute print. You can also print this on Rayware Preform for Form 2 or any other software about the same way. I could certainly print it faster if I printed it horizontal. It would be about a third of this time, so about just over half an hour. But most guides I don't need to print immediately. It's nice to have that convenience, but it's not always pertinent. So, Alright, hopefully that is it. Hopefully this video is helpful in delegating some more of the steps in the surgical guide process. We are wrapping up at 10 minutes. Hopefully that's helpful. Thank you so much. Bye for now.